Welcome. If you're a woman who has a sense that there's more out there for you, you're in the right place. I'm Whitney Baker, host of the Electric Ideas podcast. Somewhere along the line of work and kids, life carried on, but I lost track of my truth. I'm on a reflective journey, and that's what this podcast is all about. Each week, I interview a woman who is lighting her own path and offering others hope. Before our conversation ends, we'll share a reflective question for you to explore. Sometimes all we need is a jolt, a fresh idea, an aha moment that connects us to a sense of possibility. This, my friends, is what I call an electric idea. Welcome back to Electric Ideas. I'm your host, Whitney Baker. Something I know is true for moms right now is that we are spending a lot of energy and effort every day trying to hold it all together and show up well for ourselves and others and make progress in our work and our lives. And today's conversation with Dr. Diana Hill really gives us a chance to check in with if we are using our time and energy wisely. As someone who works with women who are looking to reconnect with their sense of self and establish rhythms that support their energy and vitality, I know how easy it is for women, especially moms, to get stuck in a loop of doing more, only to end up feeling completely depleted or off track. And that's why I was so drawn to Dr. Hill's work, especially her new book that we are going to dive into today. It's called Wise Effort: How to Focus Your Genius Energy on What Matters Most. I found her work to be a beautiful bridge between psychology, contemplative practice, and neuroscience. Dr. Hill is a clinical psychologist, international trainer, and leading expert in acceptance and commitment therapy. She also hosts the Wise Effort podcast. I know you're going to leave this conversation feeling inspired, so let's get into it. Hi, Diana. Welcome to the show.
Hi, thank you for having me.
I want to start with a quote from your book, Wise Effort, that I found deeply resonant and that I think encapsulates pretty well what you write about. It says, "How you spend your energy is everything. It fuels your ability to get things done, bring vitality and vibrancy to your life, and draws others towards you. Yet, it's also the force that, if unmanaged, can leave you overwhelmed, depleted, and going nowhere." I like this double side of the coin. Can you start by speaking into that a little bit?
Yeah, so I think a lot of us have a tremendous amount of energy, life force within us. And when it's channeled in a way that's aligned with our values, how we want to show up in the world, we can feel that energetic flow. Like this morning, I was running and I was talking with my best friend of like 20 years, and we were just back and forth, good energy. I left that conversation boosted and open and ready for the day. And there's been other times where I've taken that same kind of energy and I've put it in places that are depleting to me, drag me down, or are trying to prove myself. And when that's the case, then I end up feeling just like I'm spinning my wheels and going nowhere. And I think that a lot of folks are feeling that kind of scattered sense of energy right now. One of my clients said to me while I was writing this book, I'm simultaneously overcommitted and underinvolved. Like I'm doing so many things, but I also feel like I'm doing not enough things. And what is that about? And it's not just about slow down, take a break, get more massages. Don't be so perfectionistic. Don't care so much. I'll have people say that all the time. I just shouldn't care so much. I actually want you to care. I want you to have perfectionism from time to time. You know, I work with high achievers. Like, get a little perfectionistic if you're a dental hygienist, right? Get a little perfectionistic if you're sending in that pitch for a book. Be perfectionistic about it. And don't be so perfectionistic in other places where it's draining you. So energy use is everything. And that's what Wise Effort is all about, is getting wiser about how you use your energy, in how much, in what ways, in what amounts. And sometimes that's dialing it up. Sometimes that's dialing it back.
I'm so with you on this. And I just want to reflect that back because that did stand out to me in the book. I was like underlined because I know there's lots of moms in my listenership and it feels like we're doing so much. But sometimes it's a lot of things that really aren't right placement of energy. And then it feels like we're dull and we're depleted and we're wondering where our days have gone. And I know inside most of these women, there's a vibrant being that's just screaming, like, let me out to play. I haven't
Yeah.
gone anywhere. I just feel overwhelmed and like I don't know what I'm doing. So maybe we can back it up a little bit and talk about some of the qualities of wise effort, just at a very high level viewpoint. And then let's contrast a little bit with kind of some of those decisions or feelings we might have when we feel like that might tell us that we're kind of in that unwise effort zone.
Yeah. Well, yeah, some of the qualities of wise effort are that you are motivated by your values. Your mind is open and flexible. Your behavior is flexible. You're not sort of in this rigid, driven by shoulds and expectations and have tos or just going through the motions. You have a lot of depth and heart to you. You feel big feelings and you know how to be with big feelings. You actually know how to take those big feelings and turn them into something that matters to you. That run I was having with my girlfriend, she's in Colorado. She's a professor of positive psychology. And I was telling her, I just feel so, I'm doing all this stuff with the book. I feel like I'm off. I can tell I was waking up and I was, feeling sad, like teary this
Mm.
morning. And I'm feeling off with my kids because I've been putting so much into this career stuff. And she's like, what did you used to do that made you feel on with your kids in the mornings? I was like, when they were little, I used to, this time of year, I used to make pumpkin muffins. It was like a thing I used to do. She's like, that's your assignment, girlfriend. I want you to go home and make some pumpkin muffins. Now, sometimes making pumpkin muffins, and I've had the other side of that, is a complete should. I'm not the mom who makes the pumpkin muffins. I'm not the perfect blah, 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 blah. Everyone else has the perfect snacks. But right now, for me, a course correction would be to go, just spend a little time in the kitchen because that's part of my way that I connect to my kids. It's the way I connect to my mom and my mom's mom. And that would be wise effort. So it doesn't really actually matter what the action is that you are doing, because in some circumstances, making pumpkin muffins is unwise effort. In some circumstances, making pumpkin muffins is wise effort. And we cannot compare and we cannot, say that's the thing that you should do. It's driven by, okay, what is this feeling telling me about what I care about? How am I off track? What would be the wisest use of my energy in this moment that would help me feel more back on track? And what would energize me back? What
Mm.
would give me back a little bit of my own life force so then I can go into work and, use my life force back in my work again. And it's a constant rebalancing, readjusting. So, like in a balanced pose, you're never balanced, right? You're always kind of making those micro moves. If you're in tree pose or whatever pose, there's never a point where you're completely balanced. And I think that's wise effort. Unwise effort, I mean, we all know what that feels like. Unwise effort is, you're ruminating on something. You're beating yourself up. You're rigid in your thinking. You're rigid in your behavior. You're stuck in a small sense of self, like I should do it all. It's all up to me. I'm alone in this. You're not leaning back into the expansiveness that's available to all of us that can carry us, like the flow of life that, things kind of end up kind of working out for the most part. And when they don't work out, we learn something from them. And unwise effort is trying to hold on too tight, being stuck in a story, and you're doing everything you can to avoid discomfort. And when
Mm.
you do that, your life gets small, you play small, and you don't feel so great. Your life gets narrow and you lose that life force, that energetic force that is here for you to share with the world, but also give back to yourself.
We have a lot to circle back with that beautiful reflection. I want to start with thanking you for giving that small practical idea of the muffins because I talk a lot about how small micro actions can actually impact our energy throughout the day. And I like that for you. That's actually genuinely where you feel like you're giving like something that you enjoy doing. You're not like, oh, I'm beating myself up because I've been working a lot and I should overcompensate by being mama in the kitchen. Like I really feel like it is a genuine like, okay, this is a touchstone for me and that's going to help me feel reconnected with my children. And sometimes all it takes is these small intentional things, especially when we're a little out of balance with where we're showing up in our lives with the work life conundrum, right? But also something you mentioned in there, or that maybe hasn't come up, is the whole idea of genius. And I was wondering if you could lean into how your genius maybe is being a little bit used in the wrong way right now. And you're hyper aware of it because I feel like we've got this example rolling.
Yeah, yeah. So, genius energy is something that I explore a lot in the book. And I explore genius energy because one of the things that I've noticed about as a clinical psychologist is working with clients is that every client that comes into my office, one, I fall in love with, and two, I see within them these strengths, this emotional intelligence, this talents and things that interest them. They'll be talking and I'll pay attention to their tone of voice. Like maybe they're talking about cooking, or maybe they're talking about gardening, or maybe they were talking about when they were a kid and there was this tree. And Lamont has a beautiful creative writing line, which is just you start your journal with, there was a tree, and see what comes to you. And it actually will tell you a lot about what you love to do, or something about you. So I see your genius energy is your talents, your strengths, your sort of your je ne sais quoi, not your Stanford Binet score,
Right.
but what makes you you. And there's a whole lot of psychology research to this. So when I look at it from my research mind, I look at it as okay, well, we know a lot about emotional intelligence in the field of psychology. We know a lot about character strengths. There's Martin Seligman, the father of positive psychology, that has identified these 24 character strengths that you can see where you line up with them. We know a lot about flow and flow states. When you are doing things that are interesting, inherently interesting to you, you can get into that flow. What puts you in flow? Everyone has natural talents. There's things about you that just come easily to you that do not come easily to other people. And so for you, it's easy for you to be on a microphone in front of a camera, having a conversation with me. That for some people is their worst nightmare, but it's a talent of yours, right? It's a talent. You can connect in this way. So genius qualities, or what is your genius, is the first question that I ask people in the
Mhm.
book because it's one of the things that I actually look for in my clients and one of the things I looked for in myself to help me get unstuck. But then here's the clincher. That energy, whether it's your persistence or your perfectionism or your able to connect or your ability to help other people, your problem solving capabilities, your ability to be funny,
Mhm.
that very genius can either go underground because you don't give it value, or it can get overused in the wrong ways. And then your genius becomes your problem. And we could all think maybe it's hard to think about this for yourself, but you could think about for your best friend, what is their genius and
Yeah.
how does that genius become their problem?
I found that part in the book where you think about and see genius in everybody hopeful. I think a lot of people who are listening are bright, passionate women who've had to take some side steps to accommodate everything they want in midlife. And some of them are probably like listening to this, scrubbing some lasagna stain out of a t shirt, being like, oh my God, I have so much inside of me that's just like not expressed. And I feel like it probably creates a lot of mental dissonance, I would guess, if we have this innate genius and we're not bringing it to the table.
Yeah, if you're not bringing it to the table, not only does it create dissonance, you're not using your full force. And one of the things that's been so liberating for me as a psychologist, as a mom in my career, is bringing my genius to the table in places where that genius is not at the table. So if I'm bringing I have a lot of emotional sensitivity. Like I am the person at Thanksgiving that can feel the person that's in the kitchen drinking. Like,
That's
I
awesome.
know who you are. I know that you are suffering in there. My heart goes out to you. I feel for you. Right. You can see how that could become a problem, but you could see how that could be very useful if I'm in I work a lot in sort of like these research teams and I'm holding that space for the team because everyone else is in their head and I am in my body. If I'm bringing that to the team, then I'm representing something that needs to be represented in that space. And there was many years where I was like, I'm feeling all of this, but I really shouldn't shove that down, tuck it away, get in your head with everyone else, play that game. But I was not only discounting my genius, but it's a useful thing to have. It's
Hmm.
actually to be embodied when everyone is in their head means you're going to pick up on things. You're going to be creative in ways that other people aren't being creative. You may relate to somebody differently and you're bringing something fresh to the table. So whatever that is for you, your creative genius, I work with therapists a lot. I train a lot of therapists. They're artists, they're dancers. They have a whole thing. Maybe they're like have like a lot of sexuality to them, like a lot of physical passion to them. Do a workshop on reclaiming your sexuality. Who's doing that in your town? So bringing your genius to the table, it will bring a little life back to you, especially the ones that you've neglected.
Yeah.
But it also is really good for others because people want your genius. Your genius is needed in the world, and your kids need it. Your partner needs it.
Yes.
Need it.
I want to speak into a couple of the archetypes you talk about in the book and give some tangible examples of when our genius ability might tip into unwise effort. So, can you tell us about the planner and if you've encountered them and how, especially as a woman who is holding a lot for career and family, how someone who might have this genius could also tip into using, like we talked about, the other side of the coin, the unwise effort with her genius?
Right. Right. So, like a seed planted in the right soil, a planner, thankful for our planners in the world. That's actually not my genius. I'm not great at planning. I depend on other planners that are genius planners on my team to help with this. Planners are great at seeing the future and preparing for whatever is coming ahead. And they are needed. You need a planner if you want to have a summer vacation and you want to work in the summer and your kids to be in camp. As I said, I'm not a great planner. So I'm like figuring out camp the same week as camp. It doesn't work well. You end up in all the crappy camps, just so you know. So I love you planners. And I actually depend on the other moms that are planners that start in like March, telling me like, what camps are your kids in? I'm like, oh, I should start planning that in March. I had no idea. I do that in June. So planners are useful. Here's where that genius can become your problem. And if you are a planner, you already know this, is that you are so in the future, you're not in the now. You're not present in your life. You're always making the plans for that time when. And then by the time you're in that time when, you're already planning for the next time out. And you may be planning for the worst, planning for so many things. And then what happens when the rug gets pulled out from you? And then not only does the rug get pulled out for you, then the floor gets pulled out from under that rug. What
Yeah.
happens then, planner? Because if you don't build the capacity to be in your life, then when the plans go awry, you don't have a plan. You got to figure out how to be with. So we need to balance that energy, that planning energy. And that's where wisdom comes in that I see with all of these geniuses that it's really wise effort is this combination of knowing, okay, this is my genius. I'm going to use it. I'm probably going to get into wonderful things with my planning energy. And I also need to have wisdom to remind me I can get into over planning. Come back to now. And when I'm in the plan, I can thank my past self and say, thank you. Thank you for planning those camps. And thank you for planning this vacation. And thank you for planning my holiday, whatever party. But now, guess what? I get to be in my holiday party and I'm going to
Yeah.
experience it and I'm going to savor it and I'm going to take it in. And that's wisdom because wisdom is not only using your genius, but it's living your life, being in your life, not just on the surface.
What's bubbling up for me is I am lucky in my personal life to have a mother who is like the matriarch of a massive family. We have 10 plus grandkids and we lean on it, she loves it. But we had to have a gentle conversation because she'd be planning. I mean, she will send out dates like way before any of us are like thinking about the next holiday or whatever. She takes on a lot and then we'll be gathered and she'll be like, okay, so I'm thinking about Thanksgiving. And
Right.
it's like, you're robbing yourself of the present moment. Like you created all of this and we're grateful, but like be in it. Otherwise, you're really doing yourself a disservice. So
Yeah.
I've
Yeah.
seen that and I just wanted to echo that back.
Yeah. So planners, make a plan for how you are going to be. You can plan that too. Okay, so when I get to the event, I have a plan. I'm going to be in the event. And here's how I'm going to be in the event. This is what's going to remind me to be in the event, I'm going to get back into my body. I'm going to savor three things about this event. This research around savoring, taking in the good, that we need it to be in our mind for about 15 seconds or so to actually register in our nervous system. And we can savor in different ways. We can savor by giving thanks. We can savor by basking in our accomplishments and our job well done. Planners, you need to work on this. Bask in your accomplishment. Like, look around the room. You planned this.
Hmm.
right? And we can savor by luxuriating, feeling in our body the good feeling of here and now. So savoring is a great antidote and sort of a wise effort move that I talk about in the book in terms of opening up to feeling. And it's opening up to feeling difficult things. I definitely teach about that. But I also talk about opening up to feeling good.
Hmm.
And when we start getting our genius energy kind of lined up and using it in ways that are effective and useful and regenerative, you will start to feel good. You will start to feel alive. And I want you to savor that.
Absolutely. I want to shift gears to make sure we talk about kind of a tangible practice that you talk about in the book, and that is the nightmare review process. I love giving women, inspiration and wisdom, but also something that they can try. And I feel like anybody could do this, and it's telling. So, can you explain how this works to us and why it is such a kind of lightning rod for what's going on in your life?
Yeah, it's telling and terrible, isn't it? So this actually came to me from my book coach, Jenny Nash, and I was just starting to write this book, and she said, "Here's what I want you to do. I want you to write a nightmare review, like your worst nightmare of your book, like 2 stars. Give it a title, and what would it say?" And so it said things like, "I've already heard this before. She's got nothing new to say. She's just rehashing everyone else's ideas. She's like not science backed enough, or she's not heartfelt enough. 2 stars. Loser book. Don't read it." And so then I looked at my nightmare review with her and she said, "Okay, this tells you a lot about the book you don't want to write, but it tells you a lot about the values that you want to be the guideposts for the book you do want to write. You want to be authentic and fresh. You don't want to just rehash other people's ideas. And that's going to take some bravery because it's really comfortable to cite other people's stuff. You might have to say something new that someone else hasn't said that's you. You want to be science backed and you want to be heartfelt. That's a hard balance, right? Which means you're going to displease the science people just a little bit when you're too heartfelt. And you're going to displease the people when you sound a little bit boring because you're citing studies. So, yeah, that's going to be your book. And say if you're a single parent and you're dating, write your nightmare review of you on a date. If someone were watching you on the date and they wrote a review of you and it's exactly how you don't want to be, write your nightmare review doing a podcast interview. Write your nightmare review of you as a parent this year. And no matter what you write, don't look at it from a self-beration perspective. I'm not about like beating yourself up. I'm about clarity and curiosity. Look at it from a get curious perspective of what does this tell me about what I care about and how I want to show up? And in order to show up in that way, I'm probably going to have to be a little bit uncomfortable because our nightmare review often reflects our safe corner.
Yeah.
A lot of times it's me playing it safe. So it's a great exercise. I highly recommend it, but do it with care. It's like a level 9 out of the level 10 exercises that I'd work on with a client. If you're really depressed, I'm not going to be like, write your nightmare
Yeah.
review. If you're
Be
really down on
tender with
yourself,
yourself.
yeah, be
Yeah.
tender. But if you go in with a curious mind and you go in with an open heart and you go in with I'm here to figure out what I do want. So the
Yeah.
flip side of that is to write your genius review, your
Mm.
fearless review. If you were writing a book or doing a podcast or a fearless parent this year, what would that look like? That will tell you a lot too about how you want
Yeah.
to show up.
I love this practice. And one touching aspect of the book was when people kind of wrote specifically someone who had a terminal illness, maybe wrote their review for a year out. Like it would be my nightmare review if I
Yeah.
spent this time this way. Or another example that really kind of hit a chord with me in your book was a nightmare review where maybe a woman is in a relationship. And if like a year from now, it'd be my nightmare review that nothing had changed. It's a major awareness tool.
Yeah. You may already be living your nightmare review. you know? So to be honest, what my book coach said after she read my first draft was, it's kind of your nightmare review. And I
Mm,
was like, oh no, it is. You're so right. It is. So I had to rewrite it. And sometimes we got to rewrite our life. We hide ourselves from it. We don't look at it, you know? Gabriel Garcia Marquez talks about there's the public, there's the private, and then there's the secret. And, the public stuff, everyone, will show to everyone. The private stuff will show to our closest friends and family. And then The secret stuff is really only within us. And getting curious, this first sort of practice is getting into the secret stuff with your own self, getting radically honest with yourself. Am I living my nightmare review? And does something need to change?
Tell us about how our environment supports or detracts from making a change if we are potentially etching towards that nightmare review or just want to open up our possibilities in our life and maybe revisit that genius you described and think about if we're using our life force energy, our effort wisely.
Hmm. I love that you asked that because the field of psychology has been so caught up in it's all inside of you, right? You need to figure out your inner world to be healthy. But so much of our experience and our capacity to engage in wise effort has to do with context, right? So you can think about people and environments and certain ways of eating and certain ways of sleeping and certain points in your hormonal, like you're weak, are you in your luteal phase? Like they can totally impact your ability to engage in wise effort. If you have a really good night's sleep, if you don't have a really good night's sleep, right? There's so many people. I mean, I don't know if you're one of them, but for me, the status of we have like a kitchen table that everyone walks past to get to the rest of the house. The status of the clutter on that kitchen table, how much sports equipment and papers and random water bottles and like hair ties. I mean, the status of that can impact me and my ability to respond in a sort of like wise centered way. When I clear the kitchen table and we all clear the kitchen table, I can walk into the space and I'm like, I'm in wiser effort right now.
Yes,
Just from the
yes.
kitchen table. And we know this about clutter. Actually, there's a good amount of research on clutter and creativity that having a little bit of clutter actually makes you more creative. So if you like want to do like a big art project, like throw your stuff all over the place. But having a cleanly space helps you be more sort of focused and conventional. So our environment impacts us. Our biology impacts us. If you are in a toxic work environment, I don't care how assertive you are or what your social skills are, this environment is eating away at you. And you may need to have a change or you may need to find some people to support you to be in this environment, to tolerate it. And it's not just about you. So I have a whole chapter on that where you look at how your work impacts you, how your biology impacts you, how your living situation, how life transitions are impacting you.
Yeah, I know we don't have time to go into every aspect of our life in a lot of depth or as in much depth as I would love. But when it comes to our bodies, our temples, especially in this middle age time, can you speak into what treating ourselves with wise action might look like for you as a woman who's also juggling a lot right now?
Yeah. Well, a lot of my master's and doctoral research was around this area of interoceptive awareness. And interoceptive awareness is your capacity to listen to what's happening inside of your body, to know your own breath, to know your own hunger, to know your own fullness, to know your own experience of pleasure, to know your feelings inside of your body. And your interoceptive awareness predicts all sorts of things. It predicts better decision making. Stock traders who have higher levels of interoceptive awareness make more money. It also predicts eating. Folks that have higher levels of interoceptive awareness tend to overeat less. And a lot of what's happening right now in our current world, our current environment is pulling us out of our bodies. We're increasingly disembodied. We're walking heads. We're turning to our watches to tell us when to breathe or when to sleep or how much to walk, rather than tuning into what is this body telling me? And when we do that, we override some really important things about our body, which is like the whole body yes and the whole body no. Somebody may be asking you, do you want to come to the picnic on Saturday with your kids and hang out? And your body is saying, no, all I want on Saturday is just like some time to like not have to go anywhere. But you say yes, because you're so used to overriding that whole body no. And then likewise, you may not say yes to things that your body is saying yes to because you're so caught up in your head. So embodiment is the practice that we're talking about here. When sort of the scientific word is interoceptive awareness, but embodiment is another word. Are you in your head or in your body? And how do we get back into our body and start to listen to our body and see it as a source of wisdom, but also as something that we can work with? And especially for women who have learned, you say your body, you think about your thighs or the size of your, stomach or the wrinkles in your eyes. What about climbing inside this thing? And that is a real gift that we had when we were born, but we lose from age 12 to maybe like 42.
Mm.
And then we can reclaim it again. What's happening on your inside. So this is a lot of my work. I have a chapter on wise effort with the body and some practices to support you with that. But it's a real passion of mine.
Thank you. I am wondering if there's one practice that you might be able to share for women who do feel that disconnect and are very distracted, bombarded lives, for women who would like to feel more embodied in their day to day. Is there a small place to start?
I think a great practice is a practice I call one eye out and one eye in. When you're engaging with someone, like I'm engaging with you, Whitney, can I have one eye out where I can see you, I can see your face, I can feel you, connecting with you? And then can I toggle to one eye in? Can I see myself? What's happening in here? How am I feeling in here? Am I holding my breath? What's the state of my inner world? Do I need anything? And I may not even be able to give myself what I need, but it's like with your kid, just hearing the need is an intervention in itself. So I toggle one eye out, one eye in. If you have a tendency to be two eyes out, you'll miss out on this whole inner world. But you also don't want to be two eyes in. You need to be able to connect. And so this is embodiment. This is social engagement. This is neuroception. This is us being able to use our own bodies to connect with other people's bodies and stay attuned and awake to your inner world while you're attuned and awake to another person. One eye out, one eye in. Try it. And you can do it with your eyes open. You don't need to be like meditating
Right,
to do it.
right. I really appreciate that because I think, checking in even with how you feel energetically, like let's bring it full circle to your run with your friend this morning. You left that and you're like, wow, I feel light. I'm ready to share from plenty now. I'm juiced. I'm going to go give my kids some pumpkin muffins because I'm back in the back in the
Mhm.
zone.
Mhm.
I feel like I really appreciate that practice because it's a subtle way to, as we're sharing of ourselves, check in and be like, well, how am I doing? Am I having fun? Am I liking being here? And
Mhm.
remembering that the next time we prioritize who we're going to spend time with.
Right. Who are the positive energizers in your life?
Yeah,
Who are the depleters? And be strategic about that.
absolutely.
Do what you can to have more positive energizers. And friendships, in particular, they can become depleters over time. We change. Can I get it back into a positive energizing space? Or is this one I need to like not put so much effort and energy into? And I want to put some effort and energy into this one because when I leave this one, my day is better. And I know their day is better too in
Hmm.
just 5 minutes with them. So yeah, that's a wise effort move for sure in the wise effort in relationships.
We're coming up on time. I feel like we've covered a lot of territory in the area of genius and effort and given some specific examples. Knowing who my audience is there anything on your heart that I didn't ask you about that you are feeling called to share?
I think one of the things that bugs me about a lot of books is when you read them and they're great ideas, but you don't know how to do it. So I guess what I would say is that what I tried to create is something that I wanted to read for myself. I kind of lived it myself as I was writing it. And it's how I work with clients in the room, which is a method of inquiry where you get curious and you open up and you focus your energy. But in that method is practices and questions. And I want you to be like working with it, applying it so that it actually does shift your life into wiser efforts. And I believe that that is possible. Again, we're not in wise effort all the time, but we can catch ourselves more quickly when we're off and bring ourselves more quickly back. And when you do that, you offer more of your genius to the world. And I would love that. If we were all engaging in wiser efforts, wouldn't our world be a better place? So my hope is that this book gives a method and a path, one path of many, of how to do that. I think that there's some ways in which we can all level up.
I always end with an opportunity for reflection. And so in these areas of sharing from a place of overflow and genius and operating in our wisest place, what's one question women could be asking themselves more?
Okay, this is a pretty wild one. Are you ready for it?
Always.
Here's a question. If there's no problem to be solved, what's left?
Okay. I'm going to sit with that one, and I know my listenership will as well. I am so excited to share your book in this episode, and I'm guessing people will want to learn more. So, where can we follow you? Where can we get your book? Tell us everything.
I'm at Dr. Diana Hill, mostly on Instagram, but on all socials there. And wiseeffort.com is my website, or drdianahill.com. And I'm also on Insight Timer. If you like meditation or meditation curious, I post my podcast there, but I also post my podcast, Wise Effort Show, on all channels as well. So wiseeffort.com is the home base for all of that.
Wonderful. Dr. Hill, thank you so much for being here. I really appreciate it.
Thank you.
I'm so glad you joined me today. If you're looking for more, feel free to connect with me on Instagram at @WhitneyWoman. And if you enjoyed the show, I invite you to support me by leaving a review or sharing it with a friend. Hope you have an inspired day.